today will be just a little bit different, but I made a deal with David that I would do the talk today if he would do it next week. And as I said it, I know I'm going to be healthy, wealthy, and wise, and I'll get to sit back and enjoy. So we did switch up the talks today. So instead of doing chapter 22, we are moving into chapter 23, which is Immortality. I remind you that the overall title is The Perfect Whole. And so immortality is falling into that perfect whole. I also remind you, one of the ideas that I tried really hard to impress upon our consciousness last week was the idea of seeing an idea as full and perfect idea of the complete thing. The idea in its completion that we wish to demonstrate. And that falls true for immortality. Now, I did think to myself, oh my goodness, how am I going to ever talk about this? We probably right here in this room have many ideas about immortality and what it is. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't get my bloated nothingness in the way. And so I decided I was going to take the 9 subtitles and just summarize them using some quotes from Ernest Holmes, but paraphrasing his words. So the first one is the meaning of immortality. And Ernest says, we shall persist after the experience of physical death, retaining a full recognition of ourselves and having the ability to recognize others. Ernest Holmes indicates here that we would need to maintain what he calls a continuous stream of the same consciousness and self-knowingness, our subtle body, our soul body, that we presently possess if immortality is to be real. He suggests we must continue a complete remembrance and personal identity as the link which binds one event to another. And by that he's talking about this life and the next life. One event to another. We must maintain a complete remembrance and personal identity. In other words, knowing who we are and knowing that we are, being conscious of that. So he poses the question, where is our remembrance? And he answers it himself, as he often does. He gives the response that if we actually dissect and analyze every atom of our physical being, we will never find memory. And he says that that is because our memory is the knower. The identity is the knower, indicating and supporting the idea of one perfect whole. There is only one. Everything that we are, everything that we think, everything we do is of that one. God, or the universal energy of life, being all that is, being that which is, always has been and always will be, is eternal. And therefore, we, being part of that which is, have an eternal soul. Our soul is immortal. We are spiritual beings, soul bodies, engaging in a human experience. And we all hear that said in many different ways. So subtitle 2 is, as he often does, a question: where did man come from and why? Ernest Holmes says that delving into the question of why is futile. It's a useless question with no answer because life is self-existent. As our life is God, we come from a source that has no beginning and no end. However, since we are some part of life, it is of interest to ponder what we are, not why we are, but what we are. And so subtitle 3 asks, what is the body? And to this section's pretty straightforward. Probably we all know the body is matter. And he explains it as particles arranged in some kind of form. Particles arranged in some kind of form. Now, I take from that, based on what he's going to go on to say in the future, that the matter can be for us, can be particles arranged in some kind of form. Here in this plane, our physical bodies, what we see when we look in the mirror, what we experience when we take care of ourselves. But as matter can neither be created nor destroyed, it simply flows like a river from one form to another. Our form can flow into some other kind of form. So an example, this isn't from him, this is from me, and I'm going to preface those kinds of things a little bit. So an example for me to understand with this idea is an organ within our body. It can flow into a state of matter that is diseased and just as easily can be transformed into health. We have not maintained the body we were born with, and in a year from now, or even a few months from now, we will have new particles. Ernest Holmes says new particles have taken the place of the old, and the only reason that they have taken the same form is that something within has provided the same mold. That something within is our thought of the idea. In the case that I used, it would be the organ. What are we thinking about that organ? So his fourth subtitle is, Shall We Have a Body Hereafter? And he writes, form is necessary to self-expression. There can be no consciousness without something of which to be conscious. Now, when I got to this part, I sort of thought that he was saying that the physical will make a physical body, and I had to really, these subtitles here, 4, 5, and 6 maybe, I had to really study and reread and go deep, because he is saying that form is necessary to self-expression because there can be no consciousness without something to be conscious of. But he is not necessarily saying that it has to be our physical body as we see it and know it today. And that was a difficult part for me because I have had out-of-body experiences, and I have formulated my own opinions based on my experiences. And later in here, he says, you had better listen to your own experiences because they are speaking to you. And so I was able to figure out how I interpret what he's saying, and I decided that he is leaving this, as our symbol shows, open at the top. And you'll see at the very end, he shares his personal ideas about this topic. Not to mean that any one of us has to believe a certain way, but to be open-minded enough to listen and to take in what others' experiences are. If the soul continues to live after the passing of the physical body, it is reasonable to conclude that it will still need and have a body. Notice he doesn't say a physical body. There is no reason to deny its ability to create and sustain one hereafter. He then asks, from what substance would the soul create a new body? To which he answers that the idea of ether supplies a theory. Now here I went down a different path, and then I decided, well, no, I'm not going to go off too far explaining what ether is, because that's not the point of the talk here. But I do want us to know the era in which Ernest Holmes is writing this. He's writing this approximately the 1920s, and Einstein was around, and he was working on his theory of ether. Ernest Holmes had contact with Albert Einstein and enjoyed his conversations with him very much, as he did many scientists, and he speaks of quite a few scientists in this subtitle 5, which is the ether of science. So Einstein arrived at this idea that space is endowed with physical qualities, therefore there exists an ether. Now quantum has taken it even a lot further, and once I got down in that rabbit hole, I said, nope, let's go back up here to what we're really talking about. And it would be that Ernest Holmes speaks of us possibly having a body within a body. Now I want you, if you felt any resistance to that, to just simply let it be there, a body within a body. We call the ocean a body of water, but it's liquid. We call our body a body, and it's a combination of liquid, gas, and solid. So what exactly does he mean there? A body within a body. And he also at the same time speaks about innumerable planes, and I think this is important, each having its own matter with its corresponding form. I don't think he makes a specific statement with regard to this because he's not experiencing those other planes. He is in this plane, enjoying this plane. So he says that each of the planes have their own matter with their own corresponding form. And the body within the body, at first I was like, what? There's not going to be another Deborah, another mini me pops out once I die. And then I thought, okay, go back to open at the top. What other ideas could that mean? And then I thought about the pet tarantula that a friend had, and they gave me the molted one, or the one that was left behind, and I witnessed the body within the body come out and sustain life. So I thought, wow, we really do need to be open to all possibility. I'm going to assume that most of us are here on this plane that are here, although perhaps Carol's here with us today. Ernest Holmes indicates it is pleasing, satisfactory, and logical to suppose we pass from this life to the next in full and complete retention of our faculties, that we maintain an identity independent of the physical body. So when he is talking about our faculties, he is talking about the consciousness and the soul body that we are. And in the Science of Mind archives, it has been written that Ernest Holmes believed in the survival of consciousness, that spiritual evolution and immortality were synonymous. I think that's really important information. Immortality, no beginning, no end, life is eternal, is synonymous with our spiritual evolution. I find that to be quite comforting and very beautiful. And then there was a part that talked about his experience with his wife dying. He had a lot of, or at least several that I know of, experiences with the hereafter. And when he was talking about his wife, he said that he believed that even though his wife went on to another expression, that he would be with her again. This brings us to subtitle 6, is their spirit communication. To this, Ernest Holmes states that scientific research has shown us that some people in certain states of consciousness see without the eye, the physical eye, hear without the physical ear, and communicate without the tongue. And those were ideas that we've talked about the last couple weeks, the mystic and the psychic. But rather, they use the use of mind. And this leads us to understanding the soul operates independent of the physical body. Independence Day, a little connection there. Personal experience, however, Ernest Holmes says, is our best indicator. He says, we are entirely convinced of the reality of this evidence, referring to the many cases on record of spiritual communications. He does state that any such communication must be mental. And also, he says that the reason that he speaks or writes to this topic is because he believes without comprehension of immortality, we do not understand the complete workings of the mind. That spoke to me. Subtitle 7, What of Reward and Punishment? Now, when I first saw that subtitle, I was like, what does that have to do with immortality? And then I remembered going into an office one day where there were some teachers and some children, not classroom teachers, but some spiritual teachers. And I overheard one of them say to a little boy, you better behave yourself, because if you don't, you won't get into heaven. God will not allow you in if you can't behave yourself. And it was not my place, so I took a breath, finished my job that I had gone to the office to do, and said a little prayer for the child that he didn't believe that, and left. And have continued to this day praying for that beautiful little soul. So once I remembered that story, I thought, well, yeah, let's put this into immortality. God neither punishes nor rewards. We can't bargain with God. We can't say, oh, if you'll just do this one thing for me, God, please, then I'll be good the rest of my life, or I'll quit smoking, or I'll whatever it is. It doesn't work that way. It is all about our consciousness. God, as love and law, means that if we make mistakes, we suffer from them. It is according to the way we contact life through our mental flow. And when we know that, we really empower ourselves, because we know that anything and everything going on in our life right now can change, and we have the power to do it. A study of law and love reveals an understanding of how mind operates, therefore providing us with a roadmap for how to make the best decisions for our highest good. There is absolutely nothing to fear about God. We can rest assured that all is well with our soul in all planes. So, topic 8. Shall we rest in the hereafter? Well, he says a couple things about that. I'm going to start with what I wrote last first. Because I really like this. He says that if there's nothing to do in the hereafter, it would be pretty boring. So he's decided, yes, there is activity. He says it's natural to wonder where we go. It's natural to wonder whether we engage in activity. It's natural to wonder where we take our marvelous mind and subtle body, soul. He suggests that the hereafter will be a continuation of the present, a logical continuance of yesterday's. And while if we believe this, then we certainly want to ensure we're creating our here and now in peace, joy, and love, right? 9, I had promised you from the beginning, is called Personal Convictions of Life Eternal. And really, if you're interested in this topic, I invite you to read it and get a better understanding of mind and the realms of possibility. Ernest Holmes believes in the continuity of the individual stream of consciousness and personal life beyond physical death. He believes that we are immortal now and forever, saying nothing can exist unless I am aware of it. And since I am, it is a proven fact. Ooh, say that for yourself. Nothing can exist unless I am aware of it. And since I am, it's a proven fact. Make those facts, create those facts in your own life. He does not believe in the return of the soul to another life on this plane. And he says the reason is because life spirals upward. Evolution moves forward, never backward. We are always pressing forward. Even when it feels like we're stuck, we're still moving forward because that's the way life is. He says mankind, and I'm going to say humankind, is an eternal destiny, a forever expanding principle of conscious intelligence. The highest God and the innermost God is one and the same God. Now, I don't know if you know this about me or not, but each week I attempt to provide a message about how life works so that listeners can take away principles and ideas and affirmations to make their own personal life better. Because I believe that's what this teaching does. That's what it does for me. And I would love for it to do it for all humanity. And so this topic of immortality was a little different from my usual messages. So I refer us back to why Ernest Holmes wrote about it. Because for me, when I read that, I was like, ooh, okay, so this is one more of those. I was like taking it out of the box and putting it over here because I already know what I think about it. So I wasn't being open at the top at all with it. And when I read the words that he said, he believes without comprehension of immortality, we do not understand the complete workings of the mind. I thought, well, mind is pretty darn important around here in science of the mind. So I opened my mind, and I hope maybe some of these ideas have opened your mind a little bit too. And may I also remind us that we must have a full and perfect idea of a complete thing. And the reason for that is so the universe knows what we want known. And so it is.
So it is.